We were in a classroom, you would be looking at me just like this while I conducted this lecture. Since we're in a video classroom, you can get yourself something to drink, relax, and watch this information. Let's go over this together. I don't know about you, but in my experience, nobody ever really allowed me to enjoy the process of learning to write. I have felt vulnerable when it comes to writing before. And so, in my experience, I've overcompensated by writing a million words, hoping that some of them must be right, or any number of other combination of things, vague statements, hoping that nobody will really notice that I don't know what I'm talking about. But I want you to learn to embrace this learning curve and enjoy it. There are places in this world where I have never needed to use advanced calculus formulas. But writing and the ability to write sentences and form thoughts into cohesive sentences, it's just the world. So let's take a look and let's embrace this. Let's look together. In a second, I'm going to show you two images. I want you to just look at that and tell me which image you are attracted to first. I like both of them. Which one do you see first? I am drawn over here to this image, even though I like both motorcycles just fine. But I'm an elaborate thinker, so I'm going to look for the elaborate items first. Next, let's do another exercise to learn how you think. It's important that I know how I think so I can deal with myself. So let's look at one more little example. List these figures in the order you like best. You can't flunk this exercise. Just put them in the area of preference. Got it? Perfect. Let's move on. For this experiment, this image, the round or oval image, indicates the world, rebirth, global awareness. The square represents mathematical processes. This little figurine is creative, and the triangle is scientific. Now, whatever order you put those in may be an indication of how you process information. For me, the first thing I put down is this little squiggle. Next is the oval, then is the triangle, and then, if ever, mathematical processes. That's exactly how I think. When I see anything, my first reaction is always creative. Next, I see that globally. Then I see the scientific elements or properties. And then I look at any kind of equation that's involved. So take a look at that and see, get some insight into how you think. Here's another little one. This isn't required or anything, but it's a fun little test. I took it and I thought it was really great fun. All of those little self-awareness exercises are important for me to know because now I know what my strengths are and I know where I need to learn when I start writing researched expository essays. Now, I am an elaborate thinker and a visual learner. So what do I need to be sure to focus on? And that is disciplining myself to create an outline, to organize my thoughts so that I don't just spew out random thoughts like I do. So once I accepted outlines as my absolute friend, I was empowered beyond belief. Now I just have to learn how I can keep that personality included in the essay without letting that creative personality take over the essay. And if I'm a logical thinker, I know that facts are my friends. That's how I think. I think logically. I think this is my statement. Where's the proof? That's how I think. So my outlining is going to be easy to accept because I want to organize my thoughts. What I need to do is find places where I can insert my personality in an effective way. I'm going to insert a quick anecdote here. I was writing a paper for my master's English course, and I wasn't really sure what I was writing about. So I sat down and I wrote a 1,000 words, just hoping that some of them were right. And my professor said, straight, complete, concise, simple sentences. Ugh, it was just like being sucker punched. But I realize that when I start an essay, and maybe you do too, I want to kind of bring the reader into the essay. I want to make a nice little statement that gets them interested, that makes them want to keep reading. And that is something that I see with students as well. So I think some people have that in common with me. So the trick is to remember every sentence needs to make the reader want to move on and read the next sentence. If I write a vague sentence, that stops the reader because the reader is saying, huh? So I want to make sure that my statements are compelling with enough facts to make it interesting, and I have organized all of those in a way that makes sense. So I have an example of something that is a problem I see and I've seen in myself. Somebody writes, I picked this topic because everybody needs air to breathe. You have to be able to have air if you're going to live, so breathing is necessary. Okay, so that is insulting for the reader. Of course I need air to breathe. I'm an educated adult person. I know I need air to breathe. I didn't need for the writer to tell me that. And then to go into this you statement, now the writer is preaching to me like I don't know anything. And that is called overstatement and common knowledge. When writing an essay, the writer has a responsibility to the reader. I want to stimulate the reader's intelligence and make the reader want to move forward. I don't want to insult them by giving them information that they don't need. For example, I picked this topic. I don't know what this topic is. I don't know what the person's talking about. So instead of I picked this topic, I see the need to insert my personality, but I need to do that in the appropriate way to make the reader want to read this sophisticated essay. Now, a logical writer might write, in the Earth's atmosphere, the air in the Earth's atmosphere is made up of approximately 78% nitrogen, 21% oxygen. Air also has small amounts of other gases too, such as carbon dioxide, neon, and hydrogen. Okay, so that's not common knowledge, and it is logically true. But the writer has not really engaged the reader, and so I don't see the writer in this opening statement for this essay. So what's the solution? The opening sentence of the essay needs to be a little creative and a little factual. What you want to do is make sure that this is a topic that meant something to you. You don't need to tell the reader that it's a topic that meant something to you. Obviously, it meant something to you since you are writing the essay. So that's the logical part that creatives like me need to remember whenever I edit. Now, this is my method. You use a method of your own. I'm going to write a persuasive essay showing problems and solutions. And so instead of writing a vague statement or just a cut and dry fact, I'm encasing this in a little bit more of my personality. And I'm adding a picture which says 1,000 words. I was planning a trip to Delhi, India, excited to see the landmarks featured in the travel brochure. When I checked further, I discovered a pollution level that was toxic. I researched the air crisis in New Delhi and other world cities to explore the causes and effects of pollution. My concerns have allowed me to explore and promote solutions proposed and implemented in some cities where lawmakers are making a difference. Do you see that? It's logical. Where did I start? Where did I go? And where am I going in the essay? The reader knows that we're going to be moving into looking at lawmakers. We're going to be looking at pollution problems. I'm going to have to prove that there's a problem, and so forth. Next, thesis statements. This can be a daunting task for students, and it was a daunting task for me too, because when I was in grade school, when I was in junior high, when I was in high school, nobody ever stopped to explain to me just how easy a thesis statement is to write. And the fact that the thesis statement is the last thing I write in the essay. It's after I've planned the outline. It's after I've made any changes to the content. I have a little video that goes over thesis statements right here, and that's also in the course. But let's talk about the different approaches to thesis statement writing. If I'm an elaborate thinker, I'm all over the place. I care about this topic. I want the reader to care about this topic. I'm all over the place. If I'm a logical thinker, I have a tendency to go a little bit too logical into it, and now the reader doesn't really know or want to learn any further. So let's look at a rambling thesis statement. The topic I picked from the list of other topics is about air pollution and how we can do something that we should all care about to fix the problem, the tons of problems or air pollution in many cities throughout the world, which is so hard to breathe in. Okay, I don't know about any list. The reader doesn't know about a list. Now I'm stopped. I'm already as a reader. I don't know what this writer is talking about. I don't know what we means. I'm already involved in a lot of different projects, and I support different organizations, and I give money to Red Cross and other organizations, and now you're saying we, and you're talking about 9 billion people. I don't get it. Tons of problems. How many problems is that? How many cities? So I'm left with this opening statement with more questions than I have information. And I don't know what this essay is going to be about. I don't know who the writer is, and I'm confused. So now let's look at an appropriate thesis statement. A logically ordered thesis statement. An examination of 3 of the most polluted world cities, Delhi, India, Los Angeles, California, and Beijing, China, reveal the causes, effects, and proposed solutions to the air quality crisis that is prevalent in the world landscape of 2023. The reader now knows that they're going to be reading about Delhi, India, Los Angeles, Beijing. They know that they're going to be looking at the causes and effects and proposed solutions of an air quality crisis. And they know that the world of this essay is 2023. If somebody reads this in 2033, they will know when this essay was written. And it's that simple. A thesis statement shows the reader the exact sections of the essay and what the essay will be discussing and evaluating. Got it? I know you do. There's an entire video on that. Common problems. For many of you, texting is a breeze. For me and my friends, it's a nightmare, so I don't even do it. When I send them a text, I have documented facts, I have resources, I have written 3 or 4 paragraphs, and the people are saying, I just want to know how to get to your house. And I've just gone into an entire, I just don't know how to simplify things. Many of you do. Many of you understand short, complete, concise thoughts and how to communicate those. In expository writing, I do not write like I think. I don't write like I talk. For an example that's used in one of my tutorials, I will say to people when I'm talking to them, I'll say, growing up in Texas, I learned that, but growing up in Texas is a fragment sentence. As a child in Texas, I learned that. So I have to separate conversational talking with formal sentence writing. There's some little links here to video tutorials that you also see in the classroom. Wordy content. I just write fragmented run-on sentences. I'm just writing a thought and I get all tangled up in the words, but I just write it anyway. Prepositions, there's a little exercise in the course about prepositions that students sometimes think, why am I doing this? Prepositions are the biggest problem for most writers, certainly for me, in writing. Run-on sentences, random content, just running on and on and on, instead of short, complete, concise sentences. Vague content. Let's pause here. Vague content is my way, just for me. I don't know for you, but for me, vague content is my resistance to finding a fact. I'd rather say many people go to school rather than taking the 45 seconds it takes to find out exactly how many people go to school. And so vague content is a way of just not pausing to prove something. I do it all the time. And when I go back to editing, I think I read it like I'm the reader. And I think the reader is thinking, how many is many? I don't know. And so then I have to pause and take the 45 seconds it takes to find a fact. There's a little video there for that that's also shown in the course. Point of view is a major problem because there will never be a case in formal writing where the writer will need to use we, you, us, our, or a vague they in any essay at any time. I know you say, but I see those in articles that I read all the time. Yes, those are in published articles. I don't think it's right even in an article, but people are allowed to get away with that because they're publishing an article. I don't know why people think that that's important to do, but they do. Still, for you, for expository writing, research writing, analytical writing, the position is either a factual statement or your personal experience. You don't need to document or cite your own personal perceptions and experience because they're your personal experiences. But as soon as you bring anything else into the content, you'll need to prove it. Sketchy outlines. Sometimes until outlines become your friend, sometimes it's a temptation just to write a sketchy outline, just to get it done. But I'm telling you, the more detailed the outline, the better the essay, always. Lack of editing. I get in a hurry. I don't want to go back and reread what I just wrote. I just want to submit it. All I want to do is write it, save it as a PDF, and submit it. I don't want to spend any more time on this. Well, that's not the fun part, but editing is the most important part. If I stop and read my content out loud, I will catch 99.9% of the essay issues. Always. So that's all I have to say about that. Documenting research. I asked Dr. Liesenfeld, that same professor I was telling you about, I said, for heaven's sakes, do I have to prove literally everything I write? He looked over his glasses at me and he said, yes. I hated it when he did that. At first, documenting instead of writing vague sentences is infuriating for me. Then it becomes a point of pride for me. Not only do I make a statement, but I have facts to prove it. And I love that. I love being right. And so sometimes it's just working with myself. I know I'm a creative visual learner. I know that about myself. That's not anything that's wrong with me. That's just how I am. And I have to work with myself with what I've got to work with. This is the only brain I have to work with, so I have to do things that I need to do to discipline myself. So if I'm writing a persuasive essay, and I write many people like tons of places to go everywhere on trips, as the reader, are you not just confused by that? How many people? What? Tons? How many? I don't even know. But let's say if I started like this, according to a travel world study in 2022, over 18 million Americans traveled to destinations from local attractions to world destinations. I don't like destinations repeated, so I'm going to have to edit that. But do you see what I mean? Okay, then qualitative research. For creative visual thinkers like me, this is a dream come true. I love images, and I'm telling you right now, when I write a big essay, I will pause from writing the essay just to go look at pretty pictures about my topic. I do it all the time. I have a folder that I put on my desktop that's called Images. And I'm writing about this topic, and I get tired of writing words. I get tired of writing an outline. I get tired of editing content, and I will just take a break and go over to Google or wherever, and I will just research images on that same topic. It is so soothing for me, and then I save them to my desktop. If it's the kind of essay where I need to document where the pictures came from, then I'll go ahead and add those to EasyBib. But if I don't have to worry about that, I just save those images, and it really helps my brain. I don't know if that helps you or not. But regardless of whether I'm a creative thinker or a logical thinker, picking images, if all I think about is what does the reader need to see? I'm trying to write a persuasive essay on this new little fad that's called pickleball. So if I put this image in the essay, what does the reader have to do? Stop, try to figure out what this is. All I see is a net. I see some squares. I see the backs of people. I'm not persuaded to do a thing. I am so confused. I don't even know what this is. Now, let's say that I insert this image. This looks like fun. I see a net. I see a paddle. I see a ball. Okay, this is, I love the colors. The green is attractive for people. Green is a great color. Brown is an action color. The foreground is blue. That always draws the attention in. So there's how I would make that selection. And whether you are a logical thinker or an elaborate thinker like me, picking images for an essay is a wonderful experience because I think like the reader and I think about what my topic is. Now for graphs and charts, remember, the reader should not have to stop and try to figure out what in the world I'm talking about. Logical thinkers sometimes want to put in an elaborate, detailed graph to make their point and make sure that the reader understands. That's fine if the reader knows exactly where to look. Creative thinkers and elaborate thinkers sometimes like images with color. This is always attractive for a reader. Color is an attractive point. Now, if I needed to use that complicated graph, that's fine, but Photoshop in an arrow. All you have to do is click insert shape and put that in there. Nice red arrow so the reader knows exactly where to look. And then the next sentence needs to make sure that the reader understands exactly what they were supposed to see. And I know sometimes I think, well, don't they know what they were supposed to see? I just showed them the image. You need to show them and tell them what they needed to learn. That concludes this lecture on your writing style. Remember, let me just leave you with this. There is nothing wrong with the way you think. You are brilliant. You have interesting ways of looking at the world, of approaching the interesting things that you find in the world. There is absolutely nothing wrong with the way you think. If you speak multiple languages and you think in multiple languages, I understand that. And it's wonderful. If you're like me and you speak English and that's your first language, that's wonderful. The trick is learning to write simple, complete, concise, factual sentences, or sentences that include my personal perceptions based on the information that I've learned. Keep moving forward. You're doing great.